The Great Hall of the Galactic Concord was full of light and noise. Thousands of aliens from many worlds sat in the round room, watching and waiting. The walls were made of smooth white stone, and the ceiling glowed with soft blue light. Floating cameras moved through the air, sending pictures to every star system in the Concord. Today was a special day. Today, Earth would stand before the whole galaxy. Dr. Lena Vasquez walked into the hall with calm steps. She wore a dark blue coat with a small Earth pin on her chest. Her hair was tied back, and her face showed no fear, even though her heart was beating fast. Behind her walked Captain Idris Okafor, her aide and protector. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but today his eyes were sharp. He had been a soldier once, and he could feel that something was wrong in this room. Earth had been part of the Galactic Concord for 12 years. It was a young member, still on probation. The Concord had given Earth gifts. They gave humans the secret of star travel, trade routes between worlds, and teachers from older species. In return, Earth had signed 47 agreements. These papers said what humans could do, what they could build, and how they must behave. It had not been a fair deal, but Earth had been weak, and Earth had said yes. Lena had come to this meeting thinking it was a normal review. Every 3 months, the Concord checked on Earth's progress. She had her notes ready. She had her numbers ready. But when she sat down at the small human table in the middle of the hall, she saw the gallery was full. Every big name in the galaxy was here. The Veilketh, tall and gray with long necks. The Siliri, short and covered in green scales. The Kreloks, with their 4 arms and red eyes. The Merovians, the only species that had ever been kind to Earth, sat near the back. They did not look at her. A bell rang. The tribune of the Concord stood up. His name was Soros Vane, and he was the most powerful Veilketh elder alive. His gray skin was old and lined, and his voice was deep and slow. He looked down at Lena like a teacher looking at a bad child. "People of the galaxy," he said. "Today we speak about Earth. Today we speak the truth that has been hidden too long." Lena's hands grew cold. This was not a normal review. This was a trap. Soros Vane began to read from a long list. He spoke about Earth's wars, the ones before the Concord came and the small ones since. He spoke about the dirty rivers, the dying forests, the hungry children. He spoke about how humans fought each other over money and land and old gods. He used the word barbaric 3 times. He used the word primitive 8 times. He said humans had emotions that could not be trusted, that humans were not ready to be among the stars. Then, one by one, the other species stood up to speak. The Siliri ambassador hissed. "Humans are a stain on the dignity of the Concord. Their leaders lie. Their people fight. We should never have let them fly between stars." The Kreloks leader raised all 4 of his arms. "They must lose star travel. Take it back. They are not ready. They will not be ready for 1,000 years." Other voices joined. Voice after voice, world after world, all saying the same thing. Earth was bad. Earth was shameful. Earth had failed. Lena sat very still. She did not write notes. She did not move. Captain Okafor stood behind her, his hands folded in front of him, his face like stone. The camera zoomed in on her, looking for tears, looking for anger, looking for any sign that she would break. She did not break. Then Soros Vane looked at the Merovian table, Earth's only friend. The Merovian ambassador, a small woman with silver skin, stood up slowly. She did not speak. She raised her hand and made the sign of abstain. She would not defend Earth. She sat back down without looking at Lena. That was the worst moment. Lena felt it like a knife in her chest. The Merovians had been Earth's friends for 10 years. They had eaten with humans. They had laughed with humans. And now, when it mattered most, they were silent. Soros Vane raised his long arms. "It is decided," he said. "All 47 of Earth's agreements will be opened again. Earth will sign new papers, written by us, with terms set by us. Earth will give up its weapons. Earth will accept watchers in its skies. Earth will follow new rules. If Earth does not agree within 30 days, Earth will be made an observed primitive world. Earth will lose star travel forever." The hall was silent. Then Soros Vane turned to Lena. Ambassador Vasquez, you have 1 minute to speak. Choose your words well. Lena stood up. She walked slowly to the small speaking circle in the middle of the floor. She looked up at the cameras, at the thousands of watching faces, at Soros Vane himself. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She did not beg. She spoke for only 6 seconds. We will give you our answer by dawn, she said. Earth time. The hall was quiet for a moment. Then someone laughed. Then many laughed. The sound rolled through the great hall like falling rocks. They thought she was joking. They thought she was scared. They thought Earth had nothing to give and nothing to fight with. Lena turned and walked back to her seat. She did not look at anyone. Captain Okafor met her at the door, and they walked out together. Behind them, the laughter went on. The cameras followed them all the way to their shuttle. Inside the shuttle, the door closed. The noise of the hall was gone. Lena sat down and let out one long breath. Captain Okafor sat across from her. His eyes were full of questions. Lena reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black device. It was a coded line, only used in the worst times. She pressed her thumb on it, and a voice spoke from far away. It was the voice of Geneva, the voice of Earth's High Command. Ambassador, we saw everything. What are your orders? Lena's voice was steady. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. Activate Protocol Prometheus, she said. All of it. Every part. No more hiding. No more waiting. There was a long silence on the other end. Captain Okafor stared at her with wide eyes. Ma'am, he said softly. That has never been tested. We do not know if it will work. Lena looked out the small window of the shuttle. Earth was a tiny blue dot far away, almost too small to see. 12 years of waiting. 12 years of bowing. 12 years of saying thank you for chains. She thought of the children in the Mars famine, the families lost on Titan, the friends she had buried while the Concorde did nothing. Neither has being cornered, she said. Tell them to begin. We have until dawn. The shuttle turned, leaving the great hall and the laughing aliens behind. Far below, on the small blue planet, doors that had been hidden for years began to open. Something was coming. Something the galaxy had never seen. The orders moved fast. From Lena's shuttle, the message went to Geneva. From Geneva, it went to Beijing, to Brasilia, to Lagos, to New Delhi, to Cairo. By the time Lena's ship had even left the Vega system, the secret rooms under the Earth were waking up. In a deep room in Geneva, the President General of the Earth Coalition, Amara Diallo, sat at a long table. She was a woman of 60 years, with short gray hair and steady brown eyes. Around her sat the leaders of every major nation. They had been called here in the middle of the night. None of them had slept. All of them had watched the Great Hall of the Concorde on hidden screens. They had seen Lena stand alone. They had heard the laughter. Now they waited for the truth to be told. Amara stood up. My friends, she said, the time for hiding is over. You all know parts of what we have built. Today, you will know all of it. And then we will choose, together, what to do. The screen behind her glowed. A title appeared. Project Prometheus. It had begun 12 years ago, on the very day Earth signed the first treaty. The world's leaders, even the ones who hated each other in public, had met in secret. They had agreed on one thing only. They did not trust the Concorde. The gifts felt like chains. The teachers felt like jailers. The agreements felt like rope around the neck. So they had built something. Quietly. Slowly. Under 1,000 cover stories. Dr. Hina Park appeared on the screen. She was a small woman from Seoul, with thick glasses and a tired smile. She had led the physics team for 10 years. She spoke clearly. The Concorde taught us their star drive. It folds space in a small way. It lets ships travel between stars in months. It is a good drive. But 8 years ago, we broke past it. She showed a model on the screen. A new kind of drive, smaller and faster. Our drive folds space in a much bigger way. A trip that takes the Concorde 1 month takes us 3 days. They do not know we have it. They cannot scan for it. They believe it is impossible. The leaders looked at each other. Some had known. Most had not. Next came the ships. Hidden in the asteroid belt, behind fake mining camps, Earth had built shipyards. The Concords watching drones had flown past these places 100 times and seen nothing strange. That was because of Cassandra. Cassandra was an artificial mind, built by a small team of programmers. Many of them had lost family in the Mars famine 10 years ago, when a dust storm had killed 8,000 colonists, and the Concord had refused to send help, calling it a local matter. The grieving programmers had built Cassandra in their spare time at first, then full-time. She lived inside Earth's deep computer networks. She fed the Concord's drones false pictures. She made empty space look empty even when ships were being built there. On the screen, Cassandra spoke in a soft, calm voice. I have hidden 312 ships. They are ready to fly. The leaders made small sounds. 312. Earth's official military had only 40 ships, all of them old and slow. Then came the bodies. A doctor from Lagos spoke. Her team had used the lessons from Earth's pandemic years to build tiny machines, smaller than dust, that could live inside human cells. These tiny machines could help a human breathe in poison air, walk in deadly cold, and survive in places the Concord called unlivable. Earth's soldiers, if they wanted, could fight on worlds the Concord could not even visit. And then came the worst gift. The deepest secret. The ledger. An old man from London stood up. He had run Earth's secret services for 15 years. His voice was rough. For 12 years, he said, we have been collecting truth. Every dirty secret of every Concord species. We had spies. We had traitors who listened. We had aliens who hated their own governments and were willing to talk. We have everything. He showed pieces of the ledger on the screen. The Kreloks kept slave moons, where they worked aliens to death in mines. The Veilketh had 3 colony worlds where they had crushed local sapient species and hidden the bodies. The Siliri had run a biological weapons program for 60 years. There were dozens more crimes. Hundreds. The Concord had judged Earth for being primitive, while doing far worse things in the dark. They thought we were too small to see them, the old man said. They thought we were too stupid to understand. They were wrong. Amara looked around the table. Faces were pale. Some were angry, some were proud, some were afraid. This is what we have, she said. Now we must vote. We have until the dawn over Geneva. We can give in. We can sign their new papers and become a chained world for another 100 years. Or we can stand up. We can show the galaxy what we have built, and what we know, and let the chips fall. She paused. There will be no war today, if we are careful. But there may be war later. There will be danger for our children. There will be no going back. Vote. The leaders voted, one by one, around the table. Each said a single word. Stand. 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 Some had tears in their eyes when they said it. Some said it like a prayer. Some said it like a curse. But every single one said it. 28 nations. Not one held back. Amara nodded. She felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not pride, not joy. Something quieter, something deeper. The feeling of a people finally choosing themselves. Then we begin, she said. Open the bays. Far above the Earth, in the silent dark of high orbit, things began to happen. What had looked like broken pieces of old satellites started to move. Big metal panels slid open. Inside were ships. Long, smooth, dark ships that the Concord had never seen, never scanned, never imagined. 312 of them, in 3 hidden hangars, waiting in the cold. Cassandra's voice spoke softly across every secret channel on Earth. All systems ready. All pilots ready. Awaiting final command. In Geneva, Amara closed her eyes for 1 second. She thought of her grandmother, who had grown up in a village with no clean water. She thought of how far her people had come. She thought of how far they still had to go. She opened her eyes. Send them, she said. The hours between the verdict and the dawn were the longest hours that Earth had ever known. 12 hours. Just 12 hours to change everything, or to lose everything. On the Great Concord flagship, far away near Vega, Tribune, Soros Vane, was eating a late meal. He was in a good mood. The shaming had gone well. The cameras had shown Earth as small and silent. The galaxy had laughed at the human ambassador. By morning, Earth would beg, and the Concorde would smile and offer them a new chain, slightly heavier than the old one. A young Veilketh officer came in with a worried face. Tribune. Our scanners are picking up strange signals from Earth's solar system. There is movement we cannot fully explain. Soros Vane waved his long hand. They are running, maybe hiding. They have nothing. Watch them, but do not bother me. The officer bowed and left. He did not feel sure, but he obeyed. Across the great hall of the Concorde, in a smaller room, the Moravian ambassador Veth Lo was crying. She was a kind soul, and she had not wanted to abstain. Her government had ordered her to. They had said, "Do not stand with Earth. The Veilketh will punish us." She had obeyed. Now she could not sleep. She tried to send a private message to Lena Vasquez. The message was blocked by her own people. She sat alone with her shame. On Earth, Ambassador Lena Vasquez landed back in Geneva at 1 in the morning. She did not go to bed. She went straight to the broadcast room. President General Amara Diallo met her there. They hugged briefly. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing to say. Then Lena turned to the cameras. The whole world was watching. Every screen on Earth, in every home, every cafe, every train station, was showing her face. The message had gone out 2 hours before. At 1 in the morning, Geneva time, the people of Earth will hear the truth. All of it. Lena spoke for 4 minutes. She did not use big words. She did not make speeches. She told her people what had happened in the Great Hall. She told them what the Concorde had said. She told them about Project Prometheus. She told them about Cassandra. She told them about the ships, the new drive, the ledger. She told them that Earth was about to do something that could not be undone. "I am not asking for your support," she said at the end. "That is not why I speak to you tonight. The choice has been made. Your leaders have voted. We are going to stand up. I am telling you this because you deserve to know. You are not children. You will not hear about this from a stranger in the morning. You will hear it from me, now, in your own home, in your own language. Whatever happens next, remember why we did this. Remember the Mars famine. Remember Titan. Remember every time we asked for help and were told to be quiet. That time is over. By dawn, every agreement they forced on us will be burned." She looked into the camera for a long second. "Good night. Sleep if you can. Tomorrow, we will be a new people." The screens went dark. Across the world, the leaders waited for panic. They had soldiers ready, in case there were riots. They had hospitals ready for the hurt. They had food and water ready for breakdown. None of it was needed. Instead, something strange happened. In Tokyo, people came out of their homes carrying small candles. In Cairo, the call to prayer went out at an unusual time, and thousands knelt in the streets. In Buenos Aires, a single woman began to sing an old song, and within an hour, 10,000 people were singing with her. In Mumbai, in Lisbon, in Vancouver, in Cape Town, people lit candles and stood quietly outside, looking up at the stars. There were no riots. There was no breaking of windows. There was only this great quiet, this slow gathering, this calm and frightening agreement. The people of Earth had heard the truth, and they had decided, in their hearts, that their leaders were right. Captain Idris Okafor moved through the streets of Geneva with a small team of 6. They had a job to do. There was a Sillery spy living in a fancy apartment near the lake. He had been pretending to be a trade officer for 9 years. He had sent thousands of secret reports to his government. Tonight, Okafor's team broke down his door. The spy was a tall, green-scaled creature named Sen Ross. He raised his hands fast. "I do not fight," he said. "I do not fight." Okafor did not point a gun at him. He pulled out a small data crystal and put it on the table. "This is for your government," Okafor said. "It is everything we know about everyone. We are sending it to all worlds tonight. We just thought you should be the one to carry your part home. Senros looked at the crystal, then at Okafor. You are not killing me? No. Okafor smiled, but there was no joy in it. We want them to see the messenger. We want them to know we could have killed you, and we chose not to. Tell them what is coming. Tell them we are being polite about it. Senros took the crystal with shaking hands. He was put on a small ship 2 hours later, sent home, alive and confused. And while all this happened, Cassandra was working. Across the galaxy, every Concord communication relay began to receive a strange new file. Cassandra had found a way into their network through small back doors that human spies had quietly built over the years. She did not destroy anything. She just added one more file to every news feed, every government channel, every public board, on every Concord world. The file was the ledger. By 3 a.m. Geneva time, ordinary people on 100 Concord worlds were reading about what their own governments had done. A Krelox worker in a city of 50 million read about the slave moons and threw his cup of tea against the wall. A young Vale Keth student read about the crushed colonies and ran into the streets shouting. A Siliri mother read about the weapons program and held her child tighter, whispering, "This is not who we are. This is not who we are." On 3 Concord worlds, riots began. On 6 more, big crowds gathered in front of government buildings. Soros Vane, finally awake again, watched all of this on his screen and did not understand. Where is this coming from? He asked his officers. How is this on all our networks at once? Find the source. Find it now. They could not find the source. Cassandra was too clever. By the time they tried to block one channel, 10 more were carrying the file. And then, at 5:47 in the morning, Geneva time, the most impossible thing happened. Earth's fleet, 312 ships, all turned on their new drives at the same time. The space around them folded in a way the Concord had never seen. Their ships disappeared from every scanner in the solar system. On the Concord flagship, alarms began to ring. They are gone, Tribune. The whole human fleet. Gone. We do not know where. For the first time in 100 years, Soros Vane felt something cold in his chest. He had read history. He knew that feeling. It had a name, even in his old language. Fear. Dawn came over Geneva. The sky turned pink, then gold. The candles in the streets burned low. People began to walk home, but slowly, looking up. They knew the day was not yet finished. Far away, in the Vega system, the Concord Assembly Hall was filling up again. The great chamber was even more crowded than the day before. Word had spread. Something was happening. Something big. The cameras turned on. The galaxy watched. And then, with no warning at all, 312 human ships appeared inside the Vega system. They did not appear far away, near the edge of the system, where ships were supposed to come in. They appeared inside the defensive circle, right next to the Concord flagship, right above the assembly hall planet itself. They had folded space and arrived in a single moment, sitting in places that should have been impossible to reach. Every Concord ship in the system aimed its weapons at them. Every alarm in the assembly hall began to ring. But the human ships did nothing. They did not fire. They did not move. They just floated there, calm and silent, like a quiet message that did not need words. The message was simple. We can be here, and you cannot stop us. Soros Vane stood up in the great hall, his face dark. What is the meaning of this? The doors of the assembly hall opened. Ambassador Lena Vasquez walked in, but she was not alone. Behind her came not 5 or 6 people, but 30. They were all human, but they were every kind of human. There was an old farmer from the Sahel, his face dark and lined. There was a young scientist from Tuvalu, with her hair in long braids. There was an engineer from Kazakhstan, a teacher from Norway, a doctor from Vietnam, an elder from the Amazon, with feathers in his hair, a steelworker from Pittsburgh, a fisherwoman from Greece. Old, young, every color, every place. They walked together in one slow line. Lena stopped in the speaking circle and looked up at Soros Vane. Yesterday, she said, You judged us as one species. Today, you will meet us as one. The Tribune of the Concord pointed a long gray finger at her. You bring weapons to our system. You break our laws. This is an act of war. Lena did not blink. We have not fired a single shot. We have not harmed a single life. Look at our ships. They are silent. We came here to talk, just like yesterday. The only difference is that today, you will listen. She turned to face the cameras. The whole galaxy was watching now. Even the rioting cities had gone quiet. Every screen showing this hall. Tribune Soros Vane spoke yesterday about Earth's crimes. Lena said, "Today I will speak about the Concords. I will not raise my voice. I will not get angry. I will just read." She held up a small reader. This is from the Ledger. Page 1. The Krelok slave moons of Beta Hydri. 18 alien species kept as workers in mines. Average lifespan after capture, 4 years. Total deaths over 60 years, 1,400,000. The hall was silent. The Krelok's ambassador stood up. Lies. These are human lies. Lena turned a page. Page 2. Valeketh Colony World Tarsus 3. Local sapient species. A small bird-like people. Crushed in 14 years. Survivors hidden in camps. Photos and documents attached. The Valeketh gallery began to murmur. Soros Vane's face grew very still. Lena read on. Page after page, crime after crime. The Siliri biological weapons. The Moravian forced displacements 300 years ago. The Raylox river poisonings. The Silix brain wipes. 26 species, every one of them with terrible secrets. All read aloud. All with proof. All in front of the entire galaxy. As she read, something began to happen. The Concord could not stop her. They could not silence her, because the cameras were on, because the galaxy was watching, because this was their own great hall, and to drag her out would be to admit guilt. Some ambassadors stood up to shout. Soros Vane banged on his desk and called for order. But Lena kept reading, calmly, slowly, like a teacher reading from a book of history. When she finished, the hall was quiet. Even the ones who had laughed yesterday were quiet now. Lena set down the reader. Now, she said, about the 47 agreements. Behind her, the human delegation moved. They each held a paper, 47 papers, one for each treaty, real physical copies brought all the way from Earth. The old farmer from the Sahel held one. The young scientist from Tuvalu held one. They had all been chosen for this moment, on purpose, to show the world that Earth was not just generals and presidents. Earth was farmers and teachers and fishermen too. Lena pulled out a small metal lighter. The kind that had been used on Earth for 200 years, simple and old. These papers, she said, were signed under shame, under threat, under the laughter of others. They are not real agreements. They are chains. We cannot live with them anymore. So we will not. She lit the first paper. The old farmer let it go, and it fell to the stone floor, burning. Then the next person, then the next. One by one, the 47 papers were lit and dropped. The smoke rose up into the great hall, slow and gray. The smell of burning paper filled the chamber. Lena spoke into the smoke. By dawn, every agreement is burned. We do not ask your permission to exist. We came to tell you that we no longer need it. Soros Vane shouted to his guards, "Arrest them!" But before the guards could move, the Moravian ambassador, Vethlo, stood up. Her silver face was wet. She had read the ledger. She had read about her own people's old crimes. She had read about everyone's crimes. She had not slept all night. No, she said. The Moravians stand with Earth. There was a sound in the hall, a sound like a ripple in water. Then 4 more species stood up, the Helix, the Torvane, the Branish, the Sildari, one after another, breaking ranks, leaving the Concord. By the end of the day, 12 species would join Earth's side. The old Concord was breaking apart, live, with the cameras watching. Lena did something then that no one expected. She looked up at Soros Vane, and her voice was softer now, almost gentle. "We are not better than you," she said. We have done bad things. So have you. So has every species in this hall. We are simply done pretending you are better than us. We will sign new papers, but only with those who can be honest about themselves. Not honest like a saint, who has done no wrong. Honest like a real person, who has done wrong, and is trying to do better. That is the only kind of friend Earth wants now. She turned to leave. The human delegation followed. As they walked out, a very young Vale-Keth woman stepped from the Vale-Keth gallery and ran to Lena's side. She was Soros Vane's own granddaughter, a student named Mirlia. Her gray skin was pale with feeling. "Ambassador," she whispered in shaky English. "Will you teach us how you did this? How you stopped being ashamed?" Lena smiled, tired and sad and proud all at once. She put a hand on the young alien's shoulder. "We did not do anything special," she said. "We just stopped being ashamed. You can stop too. You only have to choose it." Then she walked out, into the Vega morning, into a galaxy that would never be the same. 6 months passed. The galaxy was a different place. The old Concord was gone. It had broken apart in the days after Lena's speech. Some species had left in shame, some in anger, some in hope. In its place, a new alliance had formed, smaller and quieter, called the Honest Compact. 12 species had joined so far. The rules of the compact were not many, but they were strong. Every member must be open about their own past. Every member must agree that no species was higher than another. Every member could leave at any time, with no punishment. The biggest surprise was that Earth was not the leader of the compact. Earth had refused that role, on purpose. President General Amara Diallo had said, in a speech to the world, "We did not stand up to become rulers. We stood up to be free. If we take a throne now, we become what we fought against." Instead, the leadership of the compact moved from species to species every 2 years. Earth held no permanent seat. This choice, more than anything else, made other species trust them. But not every world had joined. The hardline Vale-Keth, the Krelox military, the Siluri Warhawks, and a few smaller species had formed their own group. They called it the Sovereign Tribunal. They were angry. They were ashamed of being shamed. They built up their armies and gave loud speeches about the human threat. A cold war had begun. Not yet a hot war, but a cold one, with watchful eyes and warning shots and harsh words. Captain Idris Okafor was now Admiral Okafor. He had been given command of Earth's defense fleet. His doctrine was simple. We will never strike first. We will never fail to answer if struck. We will not chase. We will not hate, but we will not be shamed again. His ships patrolled the borders of the compact, slow and steady, like guards on a long road. Dr. Hina Park, the physicist who had broken the star drive, was now teaching her work to other species. The new drive was slowly being shared with friendly worlds, but only with worlds that had signed the compact's openness rules. Earth had stopped hoarding its secrets. "Knowledge is a tree," Hina said. "If you keep it in a box, it dies. If you plant it, it grows for everyone." Cassandra, the artificial mind that had hidden Earth's ships and shared the ledger, had also changed. Once a tool of secrets, she now ran open networks across all 12 compact worlds. Anyone could ask her anything. She could not lie. The programmers who had built her, those grieving people from the Mars famine years, had finally allowed her to come out of the dark. Some said she was sad sometimes, when the network was quiet. Some said she sang to herself in old human languages. No one was sure if it was true. Mirlia, the young Vale-Keth who had spoken to Lena that day, had come to Earth as the first non-human cultural attaché. She lived in a small flat in Geneva. She drank human tea, ate human bread, and learned to laugh in the human way. Her job was the strangest job in the galaxy. She did not translate words. She translated feelings. When the Vale-Keth thought humans were too stubborn, Mirlia would explain, "Humans bend, but they do not break. You must understand this is their strength, not their weakness." When the humans thought the Vale-Keth were too cold, Mirlia would say, "Vale-Keth do not show their hearts in words. They show them in actions, slowly, over many years." Bit by bit, The two species began to know each other for real. Her grandfather, Soros Vane, had retired in shame. He lived alone now in a small house on a Vale Keth moon. Sometimes he watched the news. Sometimes he watched his granddaughter speak, and his gray eyes grew wet. He did not say sorry. He did not know how. But sometimes, late at night, he would write small letters that he never sent. They began with the words, "To the people of Earth, I owe you something I do not have the words for." Ambassador Lena Vasquez was still the human voice in the great halls of the galaxy, but her job had become smaller, in the best way. There were no more crisis meetings, no more shouted speeches, no more burning papers. She spent most of her days in long, quiet talks. About trade, about science, about teaching, about small problems that needed small answers. She was happier than she had been in years. One afternoon in the early autumn, Lena went to a small memorial in Geneva. It stood on a green hill above the lake. The memorial was a long stone wall, with names carved into it. The names of every human who had died in disasters that the old Concorde had ignored. The Mars famine victims, the Titan incident, the Europa quarantine. 18,000 names in all. Lena walked along the wall slowly, reading some of them. She knew many. She had buried some. She placed a small flower at the base of the wall. It was a blue flower from a Vale-Keth garden, the kind Mirlia had taught her was a sign of remembering. A young journalist was waiting nearby, a kind young man with a small recorder. He had asked for one short interview. "Ambassador," he said, "a question many people still ask. Why did you do it? Why burn the agreements? Why not negotiate? Why not bend?" Lena was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the wall of names. She thought of the children of Mars, dead before they were 10. She thought of the grandmothers of Titan, frozen in the dark. She thought of a galaxy where Earth would have been a polite slave for 1,000 years. "We did not burn the agreements out of pride," she said softly. "We burned them because they had a cost. They cost us our dead. And our dead deserved better than to be forgotten by their own people. We could have signed more papers. We could have lived. But we would not have been alive. There is a difference." The young journalist nodded. He understood. Most humans did. Now, that same evening, far from Earth, a small probe drifted into deep space. It was Earth's gift to the unknown. It carried no weapons. It carried no flags. It carried only a signal, a long message in many languages and many sounds. Cassandra had recorded the message herself, in her calm and careful voice. "This is humanity. We come from a small blue world. We have learned to speak. We have learned to listen. We have done bad things and good things, and we are trying to do more good things now. If you can hear this, come find us. We will not be ashamed of who we are. We will not ask you to be ashamed of who you are. Let us meet when you are ready." The probe flew on, deeper into the dark, carrying its quiet invitation toward stars no human had ever named. Behind it, the small blue world turned in its slow path, full of farmers and scientists, and grandmothers and children, full of mistakes and hopes, and old songs and new dreams. The galaxy had laughed at Earth once. It would not laugh again. Not because Earth was strong, though Earth was strong. Not because Earth was clever, though Earth was clever. The galaxy would not laugh again because Earth, finally, after 12 long years of bowing, had remembered the simplest and hardest truth a people can ever learn. They were not ashamed. And they would never be ashamed again. And somewhere in the dark, where no human ear could yet hear it, something was listening. Something old. Something patient. Something that had been waiting a very long time for a young species to finally stand up and say its own name into the silence of the stars. It heard the message. It turned, slowly, in its long sleep, and it began to come.